welcome into the Who's On podcast, part of the Saber Podcast Network. We are in the thick of it in college basketball season. I've got a big show today. I've got UVA forward Thijs De Ridder joining me a little bit later, talk about the UNC matchup and his season at Virginia so far, the big Belgian. But right now, I've got Ryan Hammer, college basketball analyst. You've seen him all over social media. You've seen him on YouTube. You've probably watched his clips. He also hosted the Blue Blooded Pod. Ryan, I appreciate you coming on here, and it's a good time to talk about some Virginia basketball coming off wins at Louisville and at SMU last week.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I can't say that I live up to the hype of being the best guest on the episode because you have your team's best player on the podcast also, but I'm going to do my best here. So I'm happy to be here. It was a great week for Virginia and team I've been high on since like August, basically even before that in the summer. So it's good to see this team kind of bring everything to fruition.
Yeah, I've been listening, and I've been, a lot of people were kind of talking me out of I really liked how Ryan Odom had put this roster together and kind of how the pieces fit and everything. But a lot of people are like, well, it's all new players. Like they can't, click like right away. And like it's going to take time for Ryan Odom to establish his basketball. So I kind of chickened out. I was going to put them second in the ACC, but I ended up putting them like third or fourth or something like that. And but it seems like you've been high on this team for a while now. What kind of piqued your interest, I guess?
First of all, I did the same thing. I was like, I think this team can be second. My brother brought it up on my co-host and brother on our podcast. He was like, yeah, we were talking about the ACC back in August and September, and we were talking about who's going to be second behind Duke. And you were mentioning Virginia, but you put them at third. And I was like, yeah, I succumbed to the national
Yeah.
consensus of Carolina being two, which they still could get there. Like it's a mosh pit of teams realistically
Sure.
right now and behind Duke. But no, I love Ryan Orban as a coach. He's a guy I've been high on since I guess after the UMBC when he kind of got put on the map a little bit. But Utah State and VCU, two great programs that he's been a huge part of. 2 years at each school, national title. Oh my God, NCAA tournament each year. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And then obviously coming full circle back to Virginia. I know he has ties there, but it really is unbelievable to see. Like I could see that being a thing in March when the broadcasters act like it's the first time anyone's hearing it, and they're like, "This coach actually was the coach of the UMBC team that beat Virginia, and now he's here in the Sweet 16 or whatever that is." Like, I could see that being a full thing. But he's an awesome, awesome coach. He has success everywhere he goes, and like you said, the way he's built this roster was super, super intentional, right? Like everyone's going after international guys. He didn't just go after every international guy possible. He brought in two guys that I think really fit exactly what he wanted to have on his team. He wanted size and shot blocking, and he wanted explosive, dynamic guard play and a deep, deep roster of guards, and he got that. And I think he was able to do that because, like, Virginia, after the last couple of years of Tony Bennett, I don't think was in the greatest state. I think everybody can kind of understands that, and especially in recruiting and the type of player they're recruiting. So he goes after all these really underrated mid-major guards, right? Like other than Down Hall, who played at BYU, just obviously
Yeah.
went to the Big 12, but he went after Jakari White from North Dakota State. Sam Lewis is from Toledo. Devin Tillis, even a forward from UC Irvine. Like they're from all over the place and schools and places that they didn't get a lot of recognition at, where they were very obviously high major players last year in that quality, but they weren't overly recruited in the transfer portal. So it gives a school like Virginia and Ryan Odom a chance to kind of put them together. And he got so many of them that have all been great in their own respects this year so far. And it helps them out. It helps out the entire team. It helps each other out, open up space. And now Jakari's healthy. So I love the team that he put together. It was intentional. There's really no true weakness in the team. We saw that on paper back when he recruited this team and put it together. And I was like, wow, if Thijs De Ridder and Johan Grunlo can be the guys that I hope they are, because it's kind of tricky with international guys at times.
Yeah.
But if they can do that, then like, why can't they be great? Why can't they win the ACC?
Yeah, I think those two have been some of the most instant impact international guys that are brought in. And we talked a lot about international guys this past offseason that were coming over from overseas, and a lot, especially in the ACC with a couple being brought in, Neo Abdallas, down at Virginia Tech has had a good impact there. But let's look at this past week for Virginia first, and then we'll kind of get a little bit big picture. One of the best weeks in college basketball, I got to think, 79-70 win at Louisville to start the week off, 72-68 win at SMU. That's now 5 straight wins for them, and both of those quad one wins against pretty good teams. What have you seen lately from this Virginia team that's kind of showing you that maybe all these pieces are kind of, starting to fit together?
Yeah, the shot blocking has been unbelievable. Obviously, I think they're what are they third or something like that, or in shot blocking in the entire country, and or they have two of the third most blocks, and I think Ugo and Grunlo are the first and third last time I checked. High major shot blockers in terms of block percentage in the entire country, like
Yeah,
absolutely awesome. It was a huge factor in the Louisville game where they don't have a lot of size. They play through their guard. They obviously had it without Michael Brown, but they've been in without him for a lot of the season so far. And that's been a huge piece of it. But the guards, it's a new guy every single night to me. In for the most part, in some way, I think Malik Thomas has kind of stepped up as being like, hey, Jakari's out. I'm gonna have to be the dude to get us buckets now, and I think that's a good
right,
thing because one, when Jakari is fully back, which he's back, but like I still don't think he's like fully good. He's still wearing the
for
wrist
sure.
brace. I'm like, but when he's fully comfortable and back, playing his full minutes and in comfort zone, it'll be great to have another weapon and it just opens up more space. But I also think to for their long-term upside and ceiling, it's great to have a guy, right? End of the game, who's gonna get the ball in this game? And I think that Virginia Tech game is where Malik Thomas kind of, even though they lost in this crazy triple overtime game, like he was great in the second half. He didn't play in the early overtime periods, and then Odom put him in, and then he was basically giving them a chance, and he was their spark plug. So having that, I think, has been awesome. And even down Hall, he scored 0 points in the game, but he had like 8 or 9 assists in that game, and he was such a net positive anyway. Like it's a different guy doing a different role every single night, and they've
Yeah.
been all been pretty net positive. So that's been kind of the standout for me.
Yeah, I think the losing Jakari White to that injury after the Maryland game, he threw down that dunk and then, obviously fractures his wrist. I think it was actually a really important part of the season for Virginia because it seems like it kind of unlocked Malik Thomas, and that was kind of the final piece that you're waiting to see. Like, all right, he was the WCC leading scorer last year. A lot of people expected him to be Virginia's leading scorer this year. Which he has been now since you started ACC play. I think he's averaging 18.7 points per game since they started ACC play, which, 6 games or whatever. But it's a decent sample size now against some pretty good opponents that, he's kind of found something offensively. And I think he's the one guy on the team that I think he's kind of that three-level scorer where he can do it from three, he can do it in the mid-range, he can get to the rim. And that's just something that Virginia doesn't have a lot. We talk about Ryan Odom I call it analytical ball because it is 3 pointers and his shots at the rim. That is all it is. And then like you see occasional little mid-range jumpers, and that's usually 90% of the time Malik Thomas being able to get those shots in that in between.
Yeah, it's good balance too, and a lot of coaches have adopted that analytical ball type of mantra. And Nate Oates is the one I can think of right away,
Yeah.
obviously. Where if you look at their shot chart, there's literally no mid-range shots. Maybe LeBaron Philon has a few, but it's good to have balance in that. And analytics are amazing. Analytical coaches succeed; they win at the highest level. Everything's updating and adapting and modernizing over time, and especially this year and last year, I feel like more than ever. So it's important. I think those things are good. But when you have a guy who is your quote unquote go-to bucket, go-to scorer, go-to guy, you need a bucket. I don't care where it comes from. Go find it wherever you feel comfortable getting it. So it's fine.
Yeah, that's the one question mark I've had about this Virginia team still, and maybe it's being answered in real time in front of us. Is like when you get into some of these late game situations because the offense is so, you know, fluid. It could go to any one guy on any given night. It could be a Sam Lewis night. It could be a Chance Mallory night. It could be Jakari White night. It's not always Testa Ritter or Malik Thomas, but who's going to be that guy in late game situations that you're drawing the play up for? Right now, I think it's got to be Malik Thomas. I think he's the guy that has the most versatility in his offensive game. De Ridder has kind of that bully ball potential where he can get you a pretty efficient shot inside, but I think Malik Thomas has kind of turned into that guy at the end of the games.
Yeah, and I think the idea that is great. Like the end of the game, put the ball in downhall or Chance Mallory's hands as a playmaker, and you have Malik Thomas on some off-ball action, and you have Tez probably in that action also looking for like a high post or even a low
Yeah.
post setup where you have options, and then you have Jakari or Sam Lewis on the wing to kind of knock down a shot if you draw a double of some sort. So the balance is perfect right now, especially in the regular season. In March, I think it's a different story where like even Florida that last year wins a national championship. At some point, you just need to give it to your best player and be like, you need to save us. You need to save us." And that probably is Malik Thomas, because Tez is very good. He can score, put the ball down with the ball in his hands. But if I need a bucket, I'm going to Malik Thomas.
Yeah, at this point. You called Virginia the biggest sleeper in the country right now, biggest dark horse in the country right now. Let's get into that.
Yeah.
Ranked number 14 in the country, number 14 in the net, number 14 in Ken Pom and Evan Miyakawa. So everyone likes them at number 14 right now, evidently. The analytics love Virginia. They're one of 10 teams in the top 20 for offensive and defensive efficiency in the country. Um, what about this Virginia team kind of makes you feel that maybe we're not talking about them enough right now, and maybe they have another level that we're not quite tapped into yet?
Yeah, I think the parity is at the top of the country. Obviously, like Arizona, Michigan in their own regard for majority of the season, and a couple of teams have been great. But I think there are 9, 10 plus national title contenders right now, and you could even throw a team, I think like BYU and Virginia and even Nebraska, like they obviously have to be at this point. Like they're in that group of like they should be in there for now. And I think the reason why Virginia is not is because they didn't get a lot of hype in the offseason. They're not a lot of known players. And they also haven't played the greatest schedule simply
Yeah,
because they kind of just got unlucky with their matchups. And like the Butler loss sucks. It is what it is. But even their wins, right? Like they beat what? Northwestern, Dayton, Texas, Maryland, like NC State, a lot of teams that are underperforming this year so far and haven't been at full strength either, or just like aren't the teams that you anticipated coming into the year. So those wins don't come as great. And this is what I talked about on my podcast on or yesterday, I guess, but I posted is that like they might go the whole season without like a crazy statement win. Their only opportunity is going to be at Duke and Cameron Indoor on February
yeah.
28th because they get I think what Ohio State at some point. They obviously but you guys obviously play Carolina and Virginia Tech again, but like these aren't going to be like that's at this point those are games that they have to win that they should or they should win at least. So I think that there's two ways to look at it where you say they haven't beaten anybody good. So they shouldn't be a 2 seed or a 3 seed if that's the case in March and they run the table outside of Duke. Well, if you watch them, they pass the eye test, analytics support them, and they just haven't had those opportunities. If they have one opportunity all year to have a big win and it's at Cameron Indoor, like they don't win that game, why it doesn't mean they can't go to the Final Four. They can't be that
Yeah.
top 5 to 10 team in the country. Like it'd be ridiculous to say that, especially with how Duke is playing right now. So I just think their schedule just like kind of like shit end of the stick a little bit, a lot bad luck a little bit, and teams kind of flopping. And that is what it is. And like you play who you play, and you go from there. And I like that because the rankings, like you said, everything supports them being a top 15 team in the country. Everyone considers them top 15 team in the country for the most part. I think they have top 10 upside, which is a big difference. But I also think that people are just like putting them top 15 because they're winning and because the analytics say so and the numbers say so. They don't actually say like this team is really good. And it's a weird gut in my body that's trying to explain that of like someone texted me literally an hour ago and said, "How do you think Virginia's a sleeper? They're ranked 14 right now." I was like, I'm trying to explain it. I try to explain it to them. They were like, "I don't get it." And I'm like, I think there's a gear in March where people are like, "How do we miss this team? How did we miss this team? It was so obviously right in front of us." So that's why I think they're the biggest sleeper in the country, at least right now, at least at the top.
Yeah, and you mentioned the schedule too. Quite the year for them not to have Clemson on the schedule too, who is also playing really good basketball. Like the
Crazy.
ACC scheduling model did not help them there, where they're missing out on another really quality team in the conference to play. We could talk the ACC scheduling model. We could talk about that all day, but yeah, I think there are levels to sleepers. Like some sleepers are like who could pop up and be the Cinderella team in March. Some sleepers are like who could be that 8-9 seed that wins a couple games that you don't expect. Some sleepers are like who's the 4 or 5 seed that could make a
Right.
run to the Final Four. And I think that's kind of where you're saying Virginia is.
Yeah, it's very much like I'm a Maryland guy. I grew up watching Maryland. Not ant my brother's actually an anti-Virginia person because he went to Maryland during the ACC days. I have no problem with him obviously, but so like, it's like Maryland last year. It reminds me a lot of that. Nothing in terms of team similarities or like stylistically, but in terms of like they were a 4 seed that people liked a lot as like the 1 4 seed that could maybe somehow cut down nets if anyone was to or to get to the Final Four. And it makes a lot of sense. Texas Tech was similar to that last year where
Yeah.
Virginia might, if they keep winning games, like people are gonna get on the bandwagon as the more they win, they're gonna be like, like this team is actually really good. But like you said, there's always a team kind of that shocks you a little bit. Clemson was a 6 seed. They went to the Elite Eight that one year. They were a little better quality wise than a six, but Alabama was a 4 seed, went to the Final Four. Like they feel like one of those teams in plain sight.
Yeah, I kind of at the beginning of the season, it's crazy how the expectations have continued to rise. I think a lot of fans were like, "Can they just win a game in the NCAA tournament?" Because like Virginia hasn't won one since 2019, so that's like the baseline for a successful season at this point. And then like it's kind of quickly rose and like, oh, they could be a second weekend team, and now you're starting to get are they more than that? But I think, like you said, we gotta wait and see, how they do in some of these games coming up. And I know North Carolina hasn't played great basketball lately, but I think this is a big opportunity to kind of make a statement and say, like, yeah, North Carolina has some good players, but we are still the better team. And so, like, that kind of brings me to this matchup against North Carolina Saturday, 2 p.m. on ESPN against the Tar Heels. Big rivalry game. The court is being named after Tony Bennett pregame, so
Nice.
that obviously adds a little bit of fire to this game. What are you looking forward to about this matchup?
I'm looking forward to the big matchups for sure. Obviously, Caleb and Vasar are maybe the best one-two punch front court in the entire country. They're not a super deep team, obviously, but those two are an absolute problem for anybody. And I think Grunlo is Ugo is a monster. He's a terrifying beast of a human. Grunlo, I want to see him be able to match up with both those guys very well because I think
Yeah.
he doesn't get pushed around a lot, but I think these are the two guys that might be able to push him around a little bit. So if he can hold his own and not get into foul trouble, shot block the way he's been shot blocking, that duo should theoretically be a great matchup for them. And then Carolina, they let up a new career high against a guard every single night. And the fact that you have four or five guards that could do it, like it feels inevitable that the matchup is so great. Again, I say all that, and then all of a sudden something else happens, and you're like, well, what the hell? We can't hit a shot, we can't hit a three, or Grunlo goes into foul trouble, or whatever it is. I hope that's not the case, but the matchup is really good for them. Like I said, Boopy Miller was Abuka Okori get career highs against Carolina because they cannot defend guards. They literally cannot do it. They chase them around all night, and they are going to have it might be the hardest guard matchup for them all year because they're playing four guards who can all light it up and kind of get after it a little bit. So if Jakari's feeling good, I want to see a big game out of him also.
Yeah, it's kind of the inverse because Virginia had played a Corey, Boopy Miller, and Ryan Conwell and held all of them below their season, averages, and also held them to like 25% shooting from the field. So
Yeah.
they've had good success against guards this year. UNC has not, and obviously that's a big part of why they've struggled so far in ACC play a little bit. But I am really interested to see this front court matchup because I think Caleb Wilson has been tremendous this year, and Henry Vessar has been one of the best transfer bigs in all of college basketball. And so the one thing Virginia hasn't really faced this year yet is another front court that can kind of match them
Right.
size and skill wise. And so that's why I'm like, all right, let's see Thijs De Ridder, Hugo and Yenso, Johan Grunlo. Can you match up against Carolina in that way?
It really feels like the ultimate test for them where they're like Louisville fans were in my comments and replies of saying like, yeah, like on the video I posted about Virginia, and they were like, their shot blocking is definitely elite. Can confirm because they was just such a problem for them, and teams have kind of experienced that against them. But this is the biggest test possible. Like these are the two most
Yeah.
aggressive and most dominant big man combo in the country. Like if you can do it versus them and you can hold your own against them, defend them and limit them, then there's no reason to believe that you won't be great against every single team in the country. Like if they have to play against a Florida and Arizona in the tournament, like those are the elite deep front courts. Do it against Carolina, and then we can kind of worry about that in March, obviously. But yeah,
Yeah, I've kind of my thing all year with the ACC is some of the teams like an NC State, like Louisville, just didn't have those interior presences, and that's one of the reasons I was a little bit lower on NC State coming into this year because I was like, I mean, we've been down the Van Allen Lubin path before with North Carolina, and like, are we just believing that that's the only big man that they need to get through an ACC season? Like, I love Will Wade as a coach, but there's leaves something to be desired there, and I think that's how it played out in that matchup against NC State.
yeah, for sure. And we can, I mean, we could have a 12-hour discussion about NC State season so far, and those are my guys too. And like
Yeah.
I've tapped in with them, but it's not been pretty. It has not been pretty.
Yeah. What are your overall, views on the ACC? I think for a while at the beginning, like everyone's like, yeah, the ACC's up, and I think it's definitely still up from where it had been last year. Like, there's no doubt about that because last year was really bad. You've got Clemson that's up in the discussion. Louisville's still hanging around. We'll see when Mikael Brown can come back. I know he said he's practicing this week. Duke's obviously, I kind of have Duke in tier one, and then I put like Virginia and North Carolina and Louisville when they're healthy back in tier two. Where do you kind of view the ACC at this point?
Yeah, it's similar to what you said, where it was kind of like before the season of you know Duke's going to be good. You know Carolina has a floor of being at least solid. And I felt the way with Virginia also, but you kind of felt like there were like 7 or 8 teams, but only half of them would actually end up being good. And you might have a similar ACC, but maybe take a little bit of a step, right? I think the biggest thing has been in the middle of the conference, taking a step up for sure. Where last year it was a few good teams, then a big drop off. Where I think that drop off is much deeper in the league. There still is a massive drop off because the bottom of the league is still hard,
Oof.
but
Yeah.
that's just like with the nature of the schools and programs that you have in the conference and the size of the conference, like that's just how it's going to be with a few of
Yeah.
those teams at the bottom. Like Boston College is literally never going to get out of the
They're
bottom of the
18
conference.
schools. Yeah.
It's crazy, and there's 18. Like I think Big Ten has 18 also, but you look at the different schools that are in the bottom of that conference, it's a little different. They're massive, massive state schools, and here you have Pitt, Notre Dame, Boston College. It's a very, very different world. But I think after Duke, I agree. I think you could put together like I think Virginia is the second best team, but Clemson is right there. North Carolina, like you said, and Louisville. I guess, like, yeah, Louisville's still there, but even beyond that, I think has been the biggest difference. Where Miami, Florida has not been awful. They didn't look great against Clemson, but they didn't look terrible. They've been winning games. They've been putting in results. Virginia Tech has obviously been decent. I think SMU is a very, very good team, and I think they're definitely a tournament team. They should be pretty safely in. Stanford has shown some life, and NC State has shown some life at times, and even Cal, and who knows with Wake. But the middle of the conference is a little bit better, which is making the world of a difference for everyone above them. And those games aren't like the worst games in the world where you
No.
used to have last year there were 5 or 6 teams in the ACC that you look forward to having their matchups against each other. Other than that, I'm not turning my TV on. Like I'm just not going to because it's not worth it. So it's good for the conference, and it's still beneath the 3 major Power 5 conferences outside of the Big East, obviously. But it's taken a step up for sure.
Yeah, and it's helped in the net rankings to have a few more teams up in like the top 35, like NC State, SMU, Clemson. Like, they're not dragging you down if you play or lose to them. Like that, I think that was the ACC's biggest problem is they fell so far behind in the non-conference slate that by the time you got to the ACC, it was just like, well, there's no good teams, so only put like 3 of them in the NCAA tournament or whatever. But I think it's definitely improved this year. We're showing we're showing a little bit of baby steps as far as getting some more investment into the basketball again in the ACC. So it's been a better watch this year, Ryan.
It definitely has. Like the ACC isn't fully back, but it's up. We'll say it's up. How about that? Okay.
Yeah, we'll not go full back yet. Ryan, I appreciate you hopping on here today, talking a little bit about UVA basketball with me. It's going to be a good game this weekend. Any other? I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Tony Bennett since he's coming back to have the court named after him. Any Tony Bennett thoughts? I know we talked a little bit earlier about kind of the state of the roster was by the time he left, but obviously got Virginia to this point where they could go out and hire a Ryan Odom and kind of reach this level.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. I think it's great that they're naming the court after him. I think Virginia fans understand it more than anybody else, obviously, his success because some people call him a basketball terrorist, which I think is crazy. And I understand the light of that with, especially like you said, they haven't won a tournament game since the title. And the last NCAA tournament experience was that playing game that was just like it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire
That
life.
was his last game.
Right. And it was bad, but he's still one of the better coaches of like the generation. I think I'm a defense guy. I've always been a defense appreciator is what I've self-proclaimed myself. He showed that you can win with elite defense at a crazy slow pace and kind of change the game a little bit in that way where teams can do that. And Kelvin Sampson and Houston have always done that. He's always done
Yeah.
that, but without Virginia winning a national title, I don't know that Kelvin Sampson dives so deep into that slow, methodical style so much. So I think him having the success kind of sets the stone for teams like that, teams like Iowa and playing that or play a really slow pace and be methodical and St. Mary's and stuff like that. So he was a trendsetter in a bit of a way, and I think their national title run was awesome. I love that team. Kyle Guy, DeAndre Hunter. I'm a Hawks fan, so when DeAndre
Yeah.
Hunter got drafted, I was excited. And no, he's a great coach, and he deserves all the praise he's going to get from Wahoo Nation.
Man, you must be the first fellow Atlanta Hawks fan that I've had on the podcast. There's very few of us in the world right now.
I just like don't. I went on someone's show yesterday as they were playing the Bucks. There's like a minute left in the game. And
Yep.
he said, "Oh, do you want to wait?" It was an NBA show. He's like, "Do you want to wait until this game is over?" I said, "I literally don't care. Literally
Yeah.
don't care." So yeah, It's been interesting, but we're still here.
Let's just get to the NBA lottery night and see where this pick's gonna fall. That's kind of where I'm at
Praying
this point.
Pelicans keep losing
Yep.
games.
Keep losing
Exactly.
Pelicans. But Ryan, appreciate you coming on. Where can we find your stuff?
Appreciate you again. Keep doing your thing, obviously, and I'll be tapped in as much as I can, especially as Virginia keeps moving. But Ryan Hammer on socials, Blue Blooded is the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you find that stuff. But again, really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, Virginia fans, check them out. Coming up next, we got our interview with UVA forward Thijs De Ridder, so stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm joined now by Virginia's leading scorer and a freshman at Virginia with a birthday coming up, if I'm not mistaken, in a little more than a week. It's Thijs De Ridder. Tess, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you, man?
Good. Any big birthday plans coming up, or just continue on with the season?
It's probably we're playing on in Boston College, so it's probably a W. We're
There you
going for a
go.
W, yeah.
I
That'll
like
be a
it.
nice present.
I got to ask, being, all the way away from home, and I'm sure you're used to it since you were a professional before this and traveling around with the team and stuff, but being away from family, what has that been like? I'm sure it was a little bit quicker trip over to see family when you're overseas.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was in Spain for 2 years, so that was like a really nice in between step, let's say. It was only like a short 2 hour flight, and you were home basically. And now it's overseas 8 to 10 hour travel. So it's been difficult for sure in the beginning because you're here alone without anybody. With like family, girlfriend trying to get over sometimes. So that's been good. So they're coming over for my birthday the day after. So that's my parents. So that's really nice.
Yeah, well, have they been able to come before then?
Yeah, my mom and dad went one time, and my girlfriend went already a couple of times. So yeah, yeah. But
I
it's different than in Spain, of course.
Yeah, I'm sure. I've heard that over the holidays you kind of got to bounce around, and hang out with some coaches and different people on staff. Just what's it been like, kind of getting into the UVA family since you've been over here?
It's been actually been pretty easy. Like everybody's so nice. Of course, this staff is also new here, so they had to adjust to a little bit. But no, it's been really smooth. Like no troubles at all. Everybody welcomed me and their families. I went to dinner, to Griff, coach, or whatever, everybody. So yeah, they've been really nice, and also the teammates help a lot. So yeah.
What has been the biggest surprise or transition or adjustment that you've had to make just in the college game now, as if you've gotten more than halfway through the season?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference that I always say is just like the young energy players have here. Like overseas, you play against like more experienced guys, played like came from NBA, EuroLeague or whatever. And here, just like everybody wants here to get an NBA, and everybody's playing for it, and it's just the young energy. Yeah, and the guys are more athletic here for sure too.
I'm sure it's adjusted for you because now you're on the older side of
Yeah,
things.
that's true. Yeah, and I know normally I was always the youngest in Europe, so that's also the biggest difference. Yeah.
I asked Ryan Odom the same question, and he brought up kind of some of the aggression with some of the fouls and stuff like that. That's something that you're kind of getting
Yeah.
used to, but that's part of your game. So I'm sure you don't want to
Yeah.
tamper that too much.
No, it's true. Like the rules are a little bit different. I think in Europe they can be pretty physical. You can do a lot of stuff there. But here, yeah, you play against like younger guys again. So if you bump like a guy or whatever, like yeah, it's gonna look like a fall because I'm stronger. I mean, most of the time I'm stronger than those guys. But yeah, like you said, I think that just the main difference. Yeah.
How do you find your spots in games now that you're kind of gotten used to the flow and this team's gotten adjusted to each other? Where do you find your spots? Because it seems like sometimes you get off to really quick starts. Sometimes you kind of are a little bit slower into the game. Like I think of that SMU game that y'all just played, where kind of down the stretch, you kind of seem like you were into a flow of things. So how do you find yourself kind of finding where you fit into the flow of a game?
I think I came here to work on my skills part, also in basketball. I think always to work on my mental part, and I have to try to find a way to be consistent through the whole game. And that's what I'm finding out right now. But I have like great coaching staff, so if I have a turnover and make a mistake on a court, they say what I did wrong, they say what I can do right the next time that I step on a court, and that's just really what I believe in. And You just have to believe in yourself at this moment and talk to yourself like, hey, next time you go to the court, just try to do the right thing. And yeah, that what happened. That's what happened in the SMU game. Yeah.
Do you ever get some nudges when you get back to the bench from coaches being like, "Hey, man, like you can take it there, like be a little bit more aggressive in this
Yeah,
situation," or kind of adjustments on the fly?
yeah, for sure. Like for sure in the beginning of the season during practices, like a coach was saying, like, hey, Taz, you can ask for the ball more or do that or whatever. So yeah, that was kind of because like I said before, I was always the young guy in the team, so I had a complete different role, and now I'm like one of the main guys. So yeah, that transition was the biggest for me. Yeah.
Looking back, I want to talk a little bit about kind of your early start in playing basketball because it's popular over in Europe and it's only gotten more popular. But how did you kind of find yourself playing basketball at a young age?
That's funny because I started playing soccer when I was younger, when I was 6, for 4 years, with like a friend from school. And then my dad was a basketball coach at the time for my older brother. And then my dad told me like, "Hey, that's your way to taught to play soccer. Maybe you want to play, maybe you want to play basketball and try out practice with me." And that's where the love from basketball existed. And yeah, the rest is history.
How was your soccer game? Like, what position were you playing on the
I
pitch?
was like left in front. I'm left-footed. But I was like, yeah, tall, strong, and fast because I had long legs. So I was just like running people over, and yeah, it was. It's probably like not that nice to see, but yeah, I was scoring some goals, of course. Yeah,
I could see a little Erling Haaland in the
yeah, yeah,
game. Yeah.
exactly like him.
Yeah, how much influence did your dad being a basketball coach? I know your brother is also playing basketball. Did that have on kind of how you developed as a player?
Yeah, I mean, I came out of basketball family. My mom was professional. My dad was a basketball player. My brother was a good player at the time. Yeah, so like basically the whole family was basketball related. So at one time, I had no other option to join basketball.
What describe the basketball scene in Belgium for me?
It's really small. Yeah, everybody knows each other. It's one big family. No, like I don't know how to explain, but it's just yeah, it's a warm feeling. I mean, it's small, but like I said before, everybody knows each other, and if you need to get some basketball work done, you have to ask. Like I have to call one number, and everybody's there for you. Um, yeah, that's it basically because it's that small. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, early in the season, you talked about that you kind of started your kind of basketball journey playing center because you were so big and physical like that, and you said that kind of helped you with your footwork. How did that kind of time being one of the bigger guys on the court kind of help you now as you kind of develop into the player you are now?
Um, I think good. I can my touch around the rim can be better, of course, but I think that taught me at a young age, coming from soccer, not playing basketball. I mean, I was like 4 years behind of the other kids when did my first basketball practice. So that taught me really fast the touch around the rim. And of course, I made the jump to a higher club in Belgium. I mean, I started with my hometown club, with my dad, and then jumped to a higher club, professional club in Belgium. And yeah, those people believed in me, um, and just started working when I was 16, 17. I went right away in the first team of that club. So playing against all the guys, already Americans that came over from college to play European basketball. So yeah, that helped me a lot.
And I was gonna say the thing about your game is, every coach says, he's a bear, he's a bull, you get some of those kind of comparisons and stuff, but there's a lot of finesse to it too. How does a guy your size kind of develop some of that footwork, develop some of the ability to dribble the ball and kind of make plays on the fly?
I think just working with the right people who see that in you, because yeah, sometimes you have coaches that think you're just a center and you have to do only like hook shots or whatever. But then you face coaches later on in your career, like, hey, Tess, you might have to be a point guard or whatever. And it's like, hey, no way, because always been a center. And it's like, no, you have to be a point guard. And then you're in between, and then you start playing power forward, then you start sometimes small forward. So then you start dribbling, shooting, and then that's how it goes. Yeah.
We were talking a bit about the game this weekend against North Carolina. It's an opportunity to face up against some of the other, freshmen in the country. Caleb Wilson from North Carolina, and then down the road you got other guys like, Cam Boozer in the conference, and there's a lot of really good players. What excites you about that opportunity to go up against talent like that?
Um, just to see how I can compete with those guys. Those guys have big names. They're absolutely great players. Yeah, one of the best in the country. So I'm just excited to play against them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at just kind of all the reasons that you came to Virginia. Has it kind of felt like this is you found what you were looking for when you kind of made the decision to, maybe not go pro and go to the NBA, but go try college out first?
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to come here to just to not only to work on my game, but to work on my game in all aspects of basketball. Um, and have a nice team too. That's reminded me like if I come here or go somewhere to a organization or something, I want to win something. I want to win some prizes or whatever. And I think that this was the right fit for me.
Yeah. Now, am I correct on this? So you were part of the NBA draft process already. You're automatically eligible. So you won't get drafted. It's just you'll sign or you get an NBA opportunity. Is that the correct thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I guess as obviously you're in the middle of the season right now, so future planning is kind of on pause for right now. But just how do you think this year is setting yourself up for those opportunities down the line?
To be honest, I'm not really looking for that. I'm just, of course, I already read some feedback from NBA scouts or whatever, but I'm just trying to focus now on the games and the season. Just take it day by day, game by game, and yeah, whatever the future says, yeah, it will come to me. So yeah, I'm really excited for the future, of course, but we're just working out game to game now. Yeah.
Now I gotta guess, just being a professional versus being in college and kind of that experience, it's got to be a little bit more fun of an experience, just kind of college versus the professional setting.
Yeah, that's different. I think that yeah, the biggest difference is of course like the schoolwork, the classes, the homework, everything. So coming home from practice all tired and still have to do your schoolwork, that is like finding that discipline. That's like the biggest difference. Yeah,
Had it been a couple years since you were doing schoolwork?
yeah, like 3 4 years. Yeah.
What's piqued your interest in class so far?
Uh, just just I don't know, man. It's a good question. No, we had this one class like athletics in university, and that's about all these NIL deals, like everything a little bit,
Hmm.
yeah, about the NCAA, and that's what the process that I had to through to this last summer, what I did almost like everything. So it's pretty interesting to see like how big of NCAA of an organization that is, and learning more about NCAA. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, Tess. I appreciate you hopping on here. That'll do it for the Who's On podcast. I want to thank Ryan Hammer and Tess De Ridder for hopping on. Hit the bell icon, subscribe on YouTube, follow, subscribe, and leave some 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify. We will see you later in the week.